Okay, so I know a lot of you out there, a lot of hardcore movie fans, think that this man is the devil. And you think that old George Lucas went right ahead and fucked up the entire body of his lifetime's work by releasing some of the shittest follow-up movies and set of prequels ever released on cinema. And you think that he went from making the greatest films ever made, from Star Wars to The Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi and every single one of the original Indiana Jones movies, and then you think he went right ahead and started churning out some of the most abysmal garbage the world has ever seen. And you're right, there's no way to argue with that point. Even though I know a lot of you out there do seem to want to argue that point, but everyone is entitled to their opinion, and if you like the prequel movies, then I respect that. The same way that Harvey Weinstein respects an actress's personal space. But unlike the Kathleen Kennedy video I put out on my channel, this video is not going to be a snide, two-faced, backhanded, backstabbing, insincere, mocking defence of the person in question, before turning around at the very end of the video only to put the knife in and completely undermine everything positive that was said about them. No, not at all. This video is a genuine, heartfelt defence of the great man himself, George Lucas. Because, let's be honest, this man has come in for a lot of shit over the years. Mostly from internet douchebags and no-name irrelevant YouTube channels like this one. And, let's be honest, for perfectly good reason. I mean, George Lucas did go from making some of the best films ever made to making some of the worst films ever made. But this is why I feel such sympathy for the poor, poor man. Because just stop for a minute and think about it from his point of view. He was just a young film director with a dream about telling a story about knights and wizards in outer space. Alright, it was a fucking stupid dream, but it was a dream nonetheless, and the man stuck to it, and he pursued it, and he followed his dream, and he went out and he got the backing, and he got the finances, and then he went out and made his stupid fucking Space Wizard movie. And then he went ahead and spent years working on the special effects to make it look as good as possible, and when the special effects he needed didn't exist, he went ahead and invented them himself. And he went ahead and put all of his hopes and dreams on the line, and he released the movie into cinemas and theatres, and when he did, the entire world stood up and cheered. He redefined cinema and movie making in an instant and made the most popular fucking movie of all time. And then, for an encore, he went and released the sequel to the movie, The Empire Strikes Back. And once again, when he did, the entire world stood up and cheered. And then he released the third film, Return of the Jedi. And when he did, once again, the entire world stood up and cheered. And in between all of this, at the same time, he was making the Indiana Jones trilogy. And every single time he released each one of those movies, the entire world stood up and cheered. And then he took just a little short break, came back and released the first prequel movie, The Phantom Menace. And when he did, the entire world stood up and booed. They booed him into the fucking ground. And then he released the next prequel movie and the next prequel movie, and the entire world stood up and booed him again. Booed him as loudly as they possibly could. So he went ahead and made the next Indiana Jones movie, and people started calling him the devil and the destroyer of their childhood dreams. So for fuck's sake, I ask you, think about it from his point of view. How would you like it? How would you like it if by following your dreams you became the most celebrated and acclaimed movie maker in history, and then, by following your dreams just a little bit further, you became the most hated and loathed man in the history of cinema, by your own fan base, by the people who used to love you? That has got to suck balls. That has got to suck big, giant Wookiee balls. And I have every sympathy for the poor Ewok-looking dumb motherfucker. To go from being known as making some of the greatest movies ever made to being known for making some of the shittest movies ever made. That has got to crush the ego. That's got to be more crushing than being Jabba the Hutt's sex slave or a booby trap in an Indiana Jones movie. So no wonder he sold his fucking company, lock, stock and barrel, to Disney, unloading Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all of his other creations off to them because he knew that if he tried to do the sequels himself, he'd just fuck it up even more. So, to save us all from the atrocious mess that he was bound to produce, he sold it all to Disney. And look what the fuck Disney did with it. I mean, my fucking god. Anyway, from my point of view, I've got to admit, I feel sorry for George Lucas. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't thrown himself off a fucking bridge or something, having to go from being the most highly acclaimed movie maker ever to being one of the most reviled and hated filmmakers of all time. And I say, in appreciation for the two classic original trilogies he gave us, we should all give the man a little bit of sympathy. You know, unless you're black, Asian, Italian or any one of the other ethnic stereotypes that old George was so gleefully willing to stereotype in order to depict to some form of weird alien or inhuman race, but whatever, stupid fucking movie maker.